Remember the name. Belal Muhammad versus Sean Brady takes place this weekend on the prelims of UFC 280, Oliveira versus Makhachev, and I can't wait for this welterweight bout. Two top contenders in the welterweight division going at it. A very competitive bout, much like the other fights on this card as well, and it needs a breakdown video because of how competitive this fight is and because of how important this fight is as well, because the winner of this one, if it's Belal Muhammad, he arguably should be in the conversation to get a title shot in the welterweight division if no one else in the welterweight division does anything. But if it's Sean Brady, of course, he's going to need one more fight. And even if Belal Muhammad wins, at this point, if Chimaev beats Covington in the meantime, they're going to give the title shot to Chimaev. So even Belal Muhammad is going to need yet another win on top of already beating Damian Maia, Vicente Luque, and Stephen Thompson back to back to back. He's going to need another one before he gets a title shot after this. That's how weird the welterweight division is right now with the champion and his constant rematches. And then we get stuck into a trilogy with Leon Edwards. Little bit of a hold up at the top. But this is a big matchup, and I'm glad these two are facing each other because they're both grapplers. They both do the same thing, and they both have the same aim. However, they do it in a very different way. You've got Belal Muhammad using a bit more of a volume-heavy approach when it comes to the grappling and when it comes to the striking as well, whereas Sean Brady is a little bit more of the athletic specimen of the two of them. So his takedowns are a lot more strength-based, and he'll establish an immediate dominant position and try and hold on to that the entire time and work from there. And he's more based on dominance, whereas Belal Muhammad will try and overwhelm you with what he's going to go for, when he's going to shoot a takedown. Sean Brady will force those moments on you, and he's also a little bit more power-oriented on the feet as well. And I feel as though Sean Brady's going to win this one. I'm leaning towards him because I think he's a very good fighter, and sometimes there's just fighters, in my opinion, who just have that brain in them. And you can see it when they fight, and you think to yourself, well, this guy isn't... It's going to take something special for this guy to lose. You're not just going to be able to outthink this guy, out-hustle this guy. You've got to catch him. You've got to submit him. You've got to do something dominant to stop this fighter. And that's what I see when I watch Sean Brady fight. And I know the Michael Chiesa fight was a bit of a weird one, but he had his nose completely shattered in that fight, and he couldn't breathe out of his mouth whatsoever because he was just swallowing blood over and over again, and he still was able to pull out the win against Michael Chiesa by establishing dominant position in the first 2 rounds. Now listen to that again. He went out there against Michael Chiesa, a guy who has dominated Neil Magny, and I know that's not saying much, but we give Shavkat Rakhmonov a ton of credit for doing that, dominating Neil Magny in the grappling positions. Chiesa's done the same thing. Chiesa's a very, very good grappler. He dominated Rafael Dos Anjos in the grappling, which is something, Covington couldn't keep down. A guy like RDA Usman was able to do it. So Chiesa's really up there with the grapplers in the welterweight division. He even had a bunch of close submission attempts against Vicente Luque in the first round of their fight. And Sean Brady, against a massive guy in Michael Chiesa, bullied him in positional grappling control in the first 2 rounds. Belal Muhammad is also very good, though, and he's got very good takedown defense. And I do believe he has a technique advantage over Sean Brady on the feet as well, which may cause a lot of people to pick him in this matchup. However, I want to say one thing. Belal is not used to people that are going to be taking him down. And I asked my live chat about this earlier today, and I asked them the question, who's going to be more worried about their opponent's takedowns? Because that's what I feel like is going to be a massive factor in this fight. It's going to affect what happens on the feet, and it's also going to affect who is more confident to go into grappling exchanges themselves. I truly believe, and I'm sure even if you're picking Belal Muhammad, you're going to agree with this, I think Belal Muhammad fears Sean Brady's takedowns more than Sean Brady fears Belal Muhammad's takedowns. And I think he knows that Sean Brady, at least early on in this fight, it's only a 3-rounder, by the way. I think in a 5-rounder, I would have no problem picking Belal Muhammad. But in a 3-rounder, in those early 2 rounds, I think Sean Brady is going to be more in Belal Muhammad's head than Belal Muhammad's going to be in Sean Brady's head. I think Sean Brady's going to be the one leading the dance early on. And I know Belal Muhammad stuffed takedowns against Damian Maia, but Damian Maia at the time was an older guy on his way out of his career. He's never really been a great guy for takedowns anyway. And that's like sort of represented in his like stats that he has. He's not really a guy that's going to catch a blast double leg on you or get to your hips and pick you up and dunk you to the canvas and stuff like that. Maia's never been that guy. People just end up getting tangled up with him, and Belal Muhammad did a good job of not letting that happen to him against Damian Maia and stuffing all but one of his takedowns in that fight. I mean, Belal Muhammad stuffed 20 takedowns and only received one against him against Damian Maia, and that was, I believe, in the first round. But I want to talk about the stand-up of Belal whilst defending those takedowns. It was such a limited version of itself. He was so timid to throw shots. He didn't throw any kicks. He just kept peppering little shots. And listen, I don't think Belal Muhammad has a power advantage here in any way. I really don't. I watched this guy land. He made Diego Lima look like he had a good chin. If you know, you know. That's all I'm going to say about that one. He made Diego Lima look like he had a good chin. All I'm going to say about that one. I feel like Sean Brady's got a power advantage, and I think Belal has to worry about more. That's just how I feel. Belal Muhammad has the ability, and I've picked him to beat Vicente Luque in his last fight. Luque's my favourite fighter to watch on the entire roster. He beat Muhammad the first time, and I even knew Muhammad can mix it up against this guy, and Luque hates it when people mix it up against him, and Belal can do that and keep the volume on him. I think it's going to go different in the first fight. I think Belal Muhammad's going to win. I called that to happen. I'm not against picking Belal Muhammad. I know a lot of people don't like him or his style, and they sort of like just shun him and his skills because of that. But he's very good, but I think he's going to have to worry. Sean Brady, I don't think has to worry about the hands of Belal Muhammad. I don't think he has to worry about the takedowns of Belal Muhammad. He has to worry about eventually being overwhelmed if he can't win for long enough. And I think that's a much better mindset to be in than Belal Muhammad having to worry about power from Sean Brady early on, and also have to worry about just being manhandled early on by Sean Brady as well, because Damian Maia, as good of a grappler as he was, his takedown accuracy is 24%. And that's just it, cut and dry. His takedown accuracy is 24%. And he shoots so many of them to get 1 in, 4 by the looks of things, and against top-level competition, that number really rapidly drops to like 1 in 21, as we saw against Belal Muhammad. And I feel as though Sean Brady is a different level to grappler than that. And it's just on the stats. Like 60% takedown accuracy is solid. 87% defense. And Belal Muhammad, 91% defense. A lot of that was because of the Damian Maia stats that he got for himself. But he does have good takedown defense. I just think Sean Brady's a little bit too strong for him early on. And if he can establish a dominant position on Belal Muhammad, then in the second round, Belal's going to be like, well, I just got out-grappled for a round. Now I'm even more hesitant on the feet to throw my hands. And that's when Sean Brady starts landing those big punches. I also found out recently Brady broke like the athletic endurance test at the PI. Look into this. Sean Brady Performance Institute record. Something along those lines. He did like a VO2 max test for endurance and power and conditioning, and he won the entire thing. So although we saw him slow down against Chiesa in the third, I think that's a lot to do with his nose being completely shattered. He had to get surgery for it. He's now coming back. And could it shatter again? Maybe. Is Belal the guy with the heat in his hands to make it happen? I don't think he is. And we're looking at like dominant performances that Brady had against Jake Matthews. You know, he won on the feet early on against Jake Matthews. He shot 1 takedown in that fight. He got that takedown and he submitted Jake Matthews. But early on against Jake Matthews, I know reinvented himself, but this isn't long ago that he fought him. This is in 2021. So it's not that much of a new Jake Matthews that came back and beat Andre Fialho. But Jake Matthews is dangerous on the feet, and Sean Brady just outstruck him early. Outstruck him in round 1 of that fight. And looked good. And eventually when he found his way on top, dominated with total strikes, kept the pace on him, and smothered him and broke him in the third round and submitted him. And then you've got to think about, like, with two grapplers that both want to implement their style, and Belal Muhammad is good at mixing stuff up. I think he's better at mixing his striking and grappling together than Sean Brady is. Who's got something for the opponent to worry about when they shoot on them in a matchup where they're going to grapple? Brady's got the guillotine. He's got a nasty guillotine, and he's threatened a lot of people with it, and he's got a one-armed guillotine choke on his record against Christian Aguilera, where he just cinched it up with one arm and didn't need anything else. We don't really see that with Belal Muhammad. We really don't see that with Belal Muhammad. We see him getting takedowns. We don't see him threatening with anything when people try and take him down. And we see him looking to take the back and do stuff like that. He's got one rear naked choke finish on his entire record. I think the finishing potential is there from Sean Brady, and he does have power. I don't know if you guys have seen, there's like maybe I'll do a second channel breakdown of this tomorrow or something like that on the MMA Guru clips. But Sean Brady actually has like I believe a highlight reel KO at some point in his career with like a vicious punch or something in like the 4th round against a pretty decent opponent. I'm just going to check his Tapology right now because it's just sprung to mind. And then we're going to get to another thing that you can see on his Tapology as well. But I think it was the fight that got him signed. Old Chauncey Foxworth. Not the best of opponents. But it was at CFFC and he got a wicked KO blow in the first round. A wicked KO punch in the first round. And he's had other KO finishes in the first round as well, which we just don't see from Belal Muhammad. You know what I mean? We've seen a 4th round finish with shots on by TKO from Sean Brady as well against an 8-1 opponent. I just feel as though there's more chance for Brady to finish. Ismail Nurdiev is no joke. And listen, he came in on short notice into the UFC and fought Court McGee. He didn't look good, in all honesty. He looked a bit jittery. He knocked down Court McGee, got a bit overexcited, and then didn't look good. But, Court McGee, not long after, beating Whittaker in his own career, you know what I mean? Like, Court McGee can be a bit tricky, especially when you're not ready for it. And, we can go into some early losses that Belal Muhammad has against Alan Jouban if we want to go back that far in their careers and stuff like that. So, doesn't really mean anything. But Ismail Nurdiev's a solid fighter. Very solid fighter. And Brady controlled him. Made him look silly in the later rounds of that fight. Had great moments against him. Didn't get completely outclassed on the feet. Won the striking battle in round 2 against Ismail Nurdiev on 2 scorecards. He got every single round. I mean, Sean Brady's a monster. And I think he's going to show it. And I think the Chiesa fight stank it out a little bit, to be honest with you. And I also like in this matchup where there's going to be grappling. There's definitely going to be grappling. I like that Brady has been competing in grappling tournaments recently. I really like that. We don't see that from Belal Muhammad. We see a focus on MMA taking on guys like Luke Hay, which is solid to do. But from Brady, we see him grappling against Ben Saunders at Fury Pro Grappling 4 and beating him with a Kimura in round 1. We see him grappling against Craig Jones, a beast in the grappling world himself. The guy, most people, if you only watch MMA, you'll know him as the Volkanovski guy. The guy Volkanovski brought in to help him prepare for Ortega. He's a beast in jiu-jitsu. And Sean Brady was able to negate him and neutralize him on the ground for 3 straight rounds and hold dominant position. So do I see Belal Muhammad having any threats when Brady gets him down? I don't. Could he wrestle and get back to his feet? Maybe. But I don't think Belal's going to be used to that. I really don't. And Craig Jones is a big guy as well. Craig Jones is a very big man. 6'2", a lot of muscle mass on him. He's not a small dude. And I feel as though Brady's got this one in the bag. Belal Muhammad's good though. And he maybe be able to pour on the pressure and get this done as the fight goes on. And maybe that'll make me, eat my beanie by the end of this. And I'll be looking silly, but I feel as though Belal Muhammad, when he's got to deal with a takedown threat and he's got to deal with power threat as well. Like, imagine if Luke could also take down Belal Muhammad and out-grapple him. Belal's done in that fight. The only reason Belal beats a guy like Luke is because he has the options and Luke has to worry about him, and that stops Luke's power. Too much to worry about for Belal. The finishing ability is on the side of Sean Brady, in my opinion, as well. And he's also younger, and he's going to be improving at a more rapid rate. Belal Muhammad, 1977. Sean Brady, no, that's Damian Maia. Jesus. Belal Muhammad, 1988. Sean Brady, born in 1992. You know what I mean? Got a 4-year youth advantage over Belal Muhammad, and I think it's going to come in clutch for this matchup. I think Brady's very good, but it's the 5-rounders I'm worried about though. So I think Brady's going to win the first 2 rounds. I think he's going to dominate the first, and everyone's going to be like, oh my God, this Sean Brady guy. He's going to dominate the second, but it's going to take a lot more effort, and Belal's going to start having a few moments, and, you know, Brady's going to land big shots in the first, do okay on the feet with Belal in the second, whilst also getting takedowns in both rounds. The second round is a lot more difficult. And then round 3 at the start, Brady's going to start well, but Belal's going to finish good and be walking down Brady and trying to piece him up, and Brady will be shooting and failing, and Belal will try and take the back, and Brady will barely escape it, and they'll be back up on their feet, and Belal still going after him, looking for volume. I just think a 5-rounder would have been perfect for Belal here. And if I was Belal, I wouldn't have taken this 3-rounder, to be honest with you, because, listen, Mitchell's off the card, it seems like. He doesn't have an opponent for the November one. I'm sure he wishes he was in a 5-rounder against Brady there instead. I think that would be a much better matchup for him. But either way, like and subscribe. I've got Sean Brady 29-28. First 2 rounds, he outgrapples Belal. I think I've done a good job breaking it down. But Belal's got a solid chance, and he's a good underdog. But in a 5-rounder is where I'm really looking at Belal winning that fight. In a 3-rounder, Brady's pretty solid if he doesn't shatter his nose and start bleeding down his throat. Goodbye. See you later. Toodle pip.